Hi there, welcome to this hopefully last video. We'll be looking at the finished product, or basically our application where we're actually writing to an SQL database in a completed state. Obviously it could be improved a lot, but enough for you to use as a starting point, I guess, for your own projects. We might add a video to this at the end, but we'll talk about that later. What I wanted to do was at first just show you the application running. So what I'll do is I've already started it. So it's in level 6 here, and you can see app.py, and I've run it. Just an interesting thing, I discovered that not only can you run Python space app.py, you can also run it a completely different way. Running Flask space run does the same thing. Anyway, it's running here. What I'm going to do is Control click on it. I'm going to show that on the screen. You can see that it's still a PWA. I clicked the link. Okay, that's a bit better. And we've got notes. I've got nothing for Thursday. And if I say get rid of Wednesday's notes and save that, go OK, maybe do a refresh, you'll see that that stays there. I can close it and open it up again. Go in, and you'll see that it remembers no notes for Wednesday. We could enter notes here on Thursday and it would remember, but basically it works. What we can do is have a look here. So this is the notes.db, the database, and you can see the notes show up there. I'll actually put in some notes for Thursday, and you should see them come up live on the screen. Just type something in, save, OK, and you can see over here that it's come up. I should have done another one. Maybe I'll do another one live. You can put notes in for Friday. I go to save notes, and you can see that that comes up pretty much straight away. So we're updating the database directly from our application. This is great. So how do we do it? Well, I thought we might start with looking at version 4 and then moving up. So what I'm going to do is, this is the app.py from version 4. And what you can see is that there's just a couple of these lines here. These are called Flask decorators, address decorators. Basically, they tell the backend how to deliver the web pages that you want. And fair enough, if you put in a slash, then you want to deliver index.html. If you do page 1, you want to deliver page1.html. Manifest is here because it's not sure which folder it should get it from, so they put a manifest there. But all of the other stuff that you may want to, that the backend may want to deliver, it's all done by default. So we don't have to, for example, say where the favicon.ico file is. Okay, so this is relatively simple file. Let's go over now and have a look at app.py in level 6. And it's a bigger file. So we've got a couple of, well, first of all, we've got the same ones that we had before. We've got this slash, and it's got the same sort of code. We've got page 1, same sort of code. That's all very similar. Manifest is there also. We don't need to look at that. But we've got a couple of others, get note and save notes. You might be wondering why we need get notes and save notes when they're not pages that we're trying to recall. They're actually Python routines, and we'll have a look at them. So we can have a look at get notes. And it's basically the SQL needed to actually retrieve the information from Python. So what's happening here? Well, basically what's happening is that our JavaScript on the front end is calling up get, it needs to get something from the back end, and so it uses get notes. And then this decorator, it associates that get notes with this code. So we run the code, we get the data, we put it into a variable, we JSONify it. You can look up JSONify. I won't cover it in this video. Basically, we turn it into a format that we can transmit back easily to a JavaScript, and we ship it back, right? And that's what this particular decorator is doing for us. It's saying to Flask, this is how you perform get notes, and it's also providing a link that we can use within our JavaScript, and we can have a look at that here. So if we go right up the top, you can see right up the top here, when the page is actually loading for the first time, we do a get notes because we want to put the notes that are currently in the database in the new page being called up. So this is the link really between the front end and the back end. We'll just have a quick look at front end and back end again. So don't forget that at the moment, well, actually, let's typically what you'll see is you'll see your you'll be sitting on a computer, you'll put in the URL for a web page, and you'll submit that to a web server. The web server will use Flask to transmit back to you a web page, and then this web page will have JavaScript that will be able to speak through our Flask. Sorry, I'm stuck here. Can speak through our Flask decorators, and in that way communicate with the back end, say, what's the information to put on this page? It grabs the information, this thing here through the JavaScript will insert that information into the page, and that's what's happening. Just a reminder though, that this is how it would happen in real life, where you've got your browser here, a completely different computer is running the web server, and maybe even a different computer again, so there may be 3 computers involved, will be running the SQL server. In our particular development phase of things, we've got a different setup where it's our computer doing everything, right? So we've got my computer, the front end running HTML, JavaScript, and CSS through the browser. And then you've got this 127 loopback, and you, on the same computer, are running Flask and SQLite as the backend. So don't forget that in this development mode, we've got everything running on one computer, but in the real world, we'd have multiple computers involved. Okay, so getting back to our code now. So another thing to note is that previously in level 4, what we did was we manually created the database, right? Like we went in and manually created it. This time, we've actually got code here in the script to do it automatically. So you don't need to create this notes.db. It will create itself if needed, which is kind of useful. And that's initdb. And I think you'll find that's called from. So this script is actually, sorry, wrong screen. Let me get okay, so here we've got an init.db, right? And that's the code for actually creating the database. That's actually called straight away when this Python script is first run. So when Flask is first started, it tries to create the table if it does not exist. So that's another interesting little piece in the code is we've got here that we do an insert into notes on conflict. We might do an update. In other words, if it already exists, then do an update rather than an insert so that we don't have multiple copies of days coming up, of Mondays, for instance, coming up. So this is all interesting. This will take a little bit of study on your part, but should be okay. You should also note, I know this is not an SQL sort of course, but notice that you've got this commit. So there's this concept of transactions with your SQL. So make sure you understand what a transaction is in SQL and understand what the purpose of the commit statement is. Apart from that, I think you've got now all the fundamentals for understanding what we're doing. We have, just in a quick review, we've covered PWAs. So PWAs are implemented via the manifest and the serviceworker.js. Then we've got Flask, which is handling the back-end requests. And that's handled really by the structure itself, where we've got these templates and static and things like that. We've also got app.py. So these are the fundamentals this is what you can use as a template to start. I would say the missing component here that really would be the next thing to look at would be a login, so that instead of just having one user that could use this, we could have multiple users using it. And what we would do is we would add to our notes database another column called user ID. Okay, so we'd have a user ID, or we'd have a user ID table as well, a user table. So that's not in there. That would be implemented via something called session variables, which I haven't covered at all. So I may well, if I have time, get around to doing another video on session variables and logins. That would probably be your next step up. But apart from that, have a look at this closely now. I know it's a bit daunting at first, having a look at both the Python and having a look at the JavaScript, or the script that's going on. But they should both make sense if you go through them rationally and see how one calls the other, and understand that the PWA side of things is handled by manifest.json and service worker. So good luck with everything. I hope you guys manage to write great applications, and I look forward to seeing the results of your understanding of all of this. Thanks for watching the video, and see you in the next one.